Welcome to Real Recaps. Today, we'll look at an action horror film called Wormwood, Road of the Dead. The story begins with Benny telling the other survivors how he's lost his brothers. The three brothers see a meteor shower during the night. The next day, he finds a trail of blood and discovers his friend's body before seeing his brother, who is also turned into a zombie. He gets pursued and Barry decides to blow his kneecap off before finally fleeing. Meanwhile, a mechanic named Barry recalls shooting his wife and daughter that morning. The night before, Barry's sister Brooke does a photo shoot with Charlie and Cherry. Everything is fine at first, but then Charlie starts feeling pain in her body before coughing up blood. Charlie then turns into a zombie and attacks Brooke, who manages to climb up to the ceiling. Because of that, Charlie shifts her attention to Cherry and kills her with a bite. Still hungry, Charlie tries to attack Brooke again, but Brooke uses a hook to subdue her. Brooke then gets down but is almost bitten by Cherry, who is also turned into a zombie. Brooke grabs a shovel and decapitates Cherry before attempting to leave. Unfortunately, another zombie stands outside, so Brooke is forced to remain inside and calls Barry. Brooke immediately tells her brother to leave the city after sharing with him her situation. Realizing that someone is in their kitchen, he goes in and sees a zombie munching on raw meat. The zombie immediately attacks Barry as he turns on the lights, and they wrestle the creature before Barry finishes him off with a blow. Barry wears a gas mask when he sees the zombie exhaling gas and takes his tools with him. The family gets into their vehicle and doesn't stop driving until the sun comes up. Meanwhile, Brooke gets kidnapped by some soldiers after they confirm that she isn't a zombie. On the road, Megan gets tired and removes her mask, so Barry decides to stop the car. The girl then turns into a zombie, and when Annie removes her mask too, she starts throwing up blood. Once Annie feels a bit better, the family decides to continue their journey. However, it isn't long before they stop again, for Annie tells her husband she can feel she's about to turn. Barry then hugs and kisses his wife, but once she turns into a zombie, he finally kills her with a nail gun. Barry kisses Annie for the last time before returning to their car, where he cries before killing Megan too. Now alone, Barry tries shooting himself in the head with the gun, but he runs out of nails. On the other side, Brooke wakes up in a mobile laboratory with other prisoners and zombies, and realizes she's bound and gagged. A crazy scientist known as the Doctor then enters the room, and after he dances and takes some blood from a zombie, he eagerly injects it into Brooke's body. Meanwhile, another survivor, Chalker, finds Barry and feels relieved upon seeing another human. However, Barry doesn't share the same sentiment, for he wants to end his life. He grabs Chalker's gun and tries to kill himself, but the man manages to stop him just in time. The two then struggle and only stop when zombies approach them. Once the men eliminate the undead, Barry demands Chalker to give up his gun. Chalker refuses to comply and asks Barry to take the gun from him so he can do it himself. But once Barry reaches for his firearm, Chalker quickly knocks him out. Later, Barry wakes up on the back of Chalker's truck and Chalker calms him down. Once he does, Barry asks him to take him to Brooke's studio. However, their vehicle breaks down on the road, and they decide to go into the woods upon hearing a gunshot. Unfortunately, Chalker gets his head blown off, and that's where Barry meets the shooter, Benny. Barry then uses Chalker's gun to shoot some approaching zombies. Once they're safe, Barry and Benny finally leave the woods together. Back in the laboratory, the doctor talks to Brooke, and when her alarm goes off, the doctor injects her again with zombie blood. Meanwhile, Barry and Benny find a garage surrounded by zombies and ask the survivor inside if they can join. The man agrees, and Barry and Benny quickly make their way to the garage. However, a zombie woman manages to hold on to Barry, so Kelly comes and shoots it in the head. Barry expresses his desire to use Frank and Kelly's Hilux outside the garage to find Brooke. Frank shows them how different types of fuel won't burn, leaving them all wondering how that happened. But since no one can explain it, they decide to drink some beer and eat. As they eat, Kelly lights a cigarette and throws the match at the zombie woman's bloodstain on the floor. Surprisingly, it bursts into flames, and due to Barry's experiment with Neville's breath, they realize that zombie blood and breath are flammable. Because of that, the men decide to make a zombie-fueled engine to make the truck work and prepare to leave. After wearing protective gear and arming themselves with different kinds of weapons, the men throw several pieces of raw meat outside to distract the zombies. They then immediately head for the truck and tow it back to the garage, all the while making sure to keep their distance from the flesh eaters. Unfortunately, Kelly gets bitten and he loses his nose. Kelly quickly turns into a zombie, and Benny hits him and uses him as their fuel source. Frank has no other choice but to help Barry and Benny upgrade their truck. Once they're done, Frank shows them the gas-powered harpoon he's made. Meanwhile, Brooke discovers that she can use telepathy to control the zombies. Brooke doesn't understand why but uses her powers to free herself. Her plan is interrupted by masked soldiers who arrive with zombies. Brooke uses telepathy to make one zombie knee a soldier in the groin. Then, she makes it pick up a scalpel and stab itself in the stomach to hide the blade inside its body. The doctor then arrives and orders them to leave. Meanwhile, Barry, Benny, and Frank encounter more zombies in the woods and kill them for fuel. After a while, Barry pulls over and lets Benny out to relieve himself. Suddenly, a zombie in the dirt comes out and attacks Benny. Frank quickly shoots it and Benny returns to the vehicle. Unfortunately, their truck won't start, and Barry and Benny realize the zombies don't breathe flammable gas at night. With no other way to make their truck work, the men return inside the vehicle. As the night deepens, they talk about how they never turned into zombies unlike the others. Frank then starts talking about Wormwood, which according to the Bible was the star that fell to the earth when the third angel blew his trumpet and brought a disease that killed many people. Frank says he's sure that the meteor shower the other night has something to do with the undead, and that God is testing them. Moments later, Barry wakes up from a nightmare about his family and shoots one zombie. Because of that, he accidentally sets another zombie on fire and causes their truck to burn. Barry comes out of the vehicle to put the fire out, with Benny and Frank shooting the other flesh eaters to keep them from killing Barry. Unfortunately, Frank is bitten and he instructs them to shoot him before he kills them. The next day, they finally manage to start their engine and get out of there. They dump Frank and Kelly on the side of the road, and continue their search for Brooke. Moments later, they encounter some soldiers who claim that something in the air changes people and that anyone with an A-negative blood type, like Barry and Benny, is unaffected. They then learn that they're on their way to Brooke's studio and say that place is crawling with zombies. To gain Barry and Benny's trust, the soldier driving the truck asks for the name of Barry's sister and tells them that they have Brooke. But when Barry insists on talking to the man in charge, the soldier tells him to relax and follow him to his sister instead. With no other choice, Barry follows but points out to Benny that he doesn't trust those men. Meanwhile, Brooke makes the zombie she's controlled earlier take the scalpel out of its body and use it to free itself. Then, she commands it to attack the doctor, but the zombie wakes him up instead. Terrified, the doctor reaches for his firearm and shoots the zombie. She then makes another zombie unplug the tool the doctor is about to use on her and causes the zombie to bite off his fingers. To prevent the infection from spreading, the doctor uses a saw to cut off his hand and prepares to hurt Brooke for what she did. However, he turns into a zombie and Brooke uses him to free herself and make him hand over his gun so she can shoot him in the head. Finally, Brooke frees herself and opens the door. To her surprise, Brooke sees Barry in a truck following behind the mobile laboratory. Barry also realizes that the soldiers are lying and that Brooke is with them all along. He then orders his sister to jump on their truck and escape. Unfortunately, their zombie gets shot and their truck won't work without it. Benny explains to Brooke that their vehicle runs on zombies, so Brooke again uses telepathy to call a zombie and commands it to get on the back of the truck. But unfortunately, the soldiers arrive and shoot Benny in the stomach. Later, Benny thinks about his dead brothers as he deals with his gunshot wound. They decide to pull off-road since Benny's condition is worsening. Benny asks Barry to leave him in the woods since he's already dying. However, Barry refuses. Meanwhile, Brooke feels that something's happening to her body as she throws up. Because of that, Brooke asks for Barry's gun and holds his hand as she's about to shoot herself, but she is interrupted by soldiers who arrive. Brooke quickly shoots one of them, but Barry and Benny get captured. The soldiers wake Barry up and order him to summon Brooke. Barry refuses to do so, and the soldiers mercilessly pull out his fingernail using a pair of pliers. Meanwhile, Brooke controls several zombies to attack the soldiers, leaving them wondering how the undead are moving so fast during the daytime. The captain then orders them to pull out another one of Barry's nails. When Brooke hears that, she finally comes out of hiding. She is dragged back to the truck, where the soldiers handcuff her to the vehicle. Brooke throws up upon learning that the soldiers plan to take off her head. As one of the soldiers retrieves a sword, Barry asks Benny for his matches so he can blow up their compressor. Benny instead suggests letting the zombie in their truck bite him so Brooke can control him later once he turns into a flesh eater. Meanwhile, Brooke concentrates on calling more zombies. As the soldiers take Brooke, Benny distracts Barry by throwing the matches under the truck before letting the zombie bite him. Benny then becomes a zombie, and Brooke uses him to get his killer boomerang and chop off his cuffed hand before finding a gun to shoot the soldiers. Unfortunately, the captain shoots him in the head, and when Brooke threatens to attack him using her zombie horde, he shoots her too. Barry watches and screams as the zombies and Brooke fall to the ground simultaneously. He picks up Benny's boomerang and throws it at the captain. Pissed, the captain reveals his face and Barry taunts him for not having an A-negative blood type. This enrages the captain and he lets Barry free himself to fight him. The men engage in a fight and the captain easily overcomes Barry. As he pins Barry to the truck, he shoots a zombie when it tries to bite him, causing its blood to splatter on his face. Upon seeing that, Barry grabs the matches and sets the captain on fire. However, when Barry is about to shoot him, Brooke gets up. Her zombies rise too. Brooke orders her zombies to feast on the captain's flesh. Later, Barry and Brooke encounter the soldiers driving the mobile laboratory. When the soldiers refuse to show Barry what's inside the truck, Brooke unleashes the zombie horde on them. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.